Hello friends, myself Arkaprabha Bhattacharya. I am a student of Indian Institute of Legal Studies. I am currently in 10th sem. Today in this latest episode of IILS Law Times, I am here with a very interesting topic. The name of the topic is medical negligence, which is a very important topic. With me, I have Romil sir, Assistant Professor of Law, Indian
Hello.
Institute of Legal Studies. Thank you, sir. He will give us all the basic inputs regarding this topic. So let me tell you about medical negligence. We often think that doctors are the agents of the God, like they are someone who can save anyone's life, but it's not true. There is a reason why we say that doctors practice the profession, and there may be times where, yes, because of the failure there may be death and all, but gross negligence, reckless act is something which the law can't say that we should ignore it. So therefore the development of medical negligence from 1950s to till date has been astonishing. So I would like to request sir to give us all the basic inputs and all the necessary information in brief, so that we can understand this topic of medical negligence. Over to you, sir.
So there are various important aspects of medical negligence, but I will like to focus on two very important aspects of medical negligence. One is that how do we decide that whether doctor is negligent or not? So there are two important tests in this regard. One is known as Bolam test. When we talk about Bolam test, it simply tells that if doctor has reached the standard of responsible body of medical opinion, then he will not be considered negligent. In simple words, what it means that if doctor has followed those procedures which are commonly followed in the medical field by other doctors also, then that doctor is not negligent, even if there is contrary opinion existing in the medical field. So this is Bolam test in its essence. But then there is another test also, and that test is slight deviation from the Bolam test, which simply tells that only the doctor need not follow the standard procedure, but the court is given the power to see that whether that procedure which has been followed, whether that body of medical opinion which has been followed, whether it is logical or not. So it gives extra power to the judiciary, and judicial scrutiny can be done in those cases. However, in the context of India, there was very important judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Jacob Matthews, where the Honorable Supreme Court held that in India, Bolam test is applied. So in India, if we talk, then the most dominant test is Bolam test. Now this is one important thing about medical negligence. Medical negligence is civil wrong also, and there can be criminal liability also if medical negligence has happened. Now I want to discuss about one very practical aspect of medical negligence, and it is very pertinent topic also, that what will be the liability of doctors under the Consumer Protection Act. Now what will happen in those cases when doctor is negligent? We know that if doctor is negligent, then there can be civil liability. We also know that if doctor is negligent, then there can be criminal liability. But what will be the liability of doctors under the Consumer Protection Act? That is very pertinent and practical question which we have to explore. Now the answer to this question was given by the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Indian Medical Association versus VP Shantha. What happened in that case? That the Supreme Court had to decide that what will be the liability of doctors under the Consumer Protection Act. Now the Supreme Court held that there are three kinds of hospitals. One hospital where treatment is given free of cost to everyone. Now in those hospitals where the treatment is given free of cost to each and every patient, they will not come there, the hospital and doctors will not come within the ambit of Consumer Protection Act. Now there are second kinds of hospitals where the treatment is given by taking fees, by taking money to every patient who is going to avail that service. Now these are the hospitals which will come within the ambit of Consumer Protection Act. That is also very clear. But now there is third kind of hospitals also. Those hospitals where generally treatment is given after taking money and fees, but then those patients who cannot avail, those patients who cannot give money, who are from underprivileged sections of the society, they are given free treatment. Now what will happen in this third category of hospital? That was very important question which Honorable Supreme Court had to decide in this landmark judgment of Indian Medical Association versus VP Shantha. Supreme Court answered that those hospitals where treatment is given free of cost to only few people who are poor or not capable of paying, there also the Consumer Protection Act will apply, and those doctors and hospitals will be liable under the Consumer Protection Act. And this was very important observation and decision of the Honorable Supreme Court, which gave relief to the patients. Now Supreme Court made it very clear in this judgment that the relationship between doctor and patient is a kind of service, and that service will attract the provisions of Consumer Protection Act. So, and as we can understand that it is important to protect the doctors because they are protecting our lives, and sufficient protection has been given to them under Indian Penal Code under the provisions of general exceptions. But it is also equally important to give right to those people who are patients and they have faced and suffered certain damages because of the negligent behavior of the doctors. So I think that, as I told, that medical negligence is a vast topic and there are various aspects of medical negligence, but I wanted to focus on these two topics, that how do we decide that whether doctor and hospital is negligent or not. There the test which is applied is Bolam test, though I have mentioned that there is another test also gaining ground which will make slightly more difficult for the doctors and hospitals, because there the power of judges increased and judicial scrutiny became more prominent than Bolam test. But in India today also the test which is applied dominantly is Bolam test, which simply tells that if you have followed those things which are common in the medical field, then you will not be negligent. And the second thing which I wanted to discuss was regarding the liability of doctors under the Consumer Protection Act, where I have discussed with you very landmark judgment of the Honorable Supreme Court. Thank you so much. I will again like to call you to conclude.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir gave us the complete conception and the development of the jurisprudence behind medical negligence. At the end, in the conclusion, I just want to say that it's a very pious profession, this medical profession, and we as a responsible citizen should be aware enough about our rights, but we should not go and file anything or file any case against any medical practitioner where there are no reasonable grounds, because it sends a wrong message to the entire medical fraternity. And sometimes if we continue to do this practice, it might happen that the doctors will be hesitant to treat the patients. So thank you, sir. With that, I am concluding today's topic. Thanks for watching Indian Institute of Legal Studies Law Times. Stay tuned.